MMAWeekly.com, Eric Fontanez here with CEO of Strikeforce, Scott Coker. Scott, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great.
Good. Now, big fight card coming up for you guys on December. Talk about the card and talk about how excited you are to come back to San Diego.
You know, we had a great support here from the local community in April. We had Diaz fight Paul Daly, which was an unbelievable fight. One of my favorite fights of all time, just the way that thing went back and forth. But if you remember, the semi-main event of that card was Gilbert fighting Cowajuri.
Yeah.
And he just, you know, he smashed Cowajuri. He's the greatest lightweight fighter in the world right now. And to me, I think the fans were well received. Gilbert had a big following here, and they were well received here. He was well received, and I think Strikeforce had a good showing. So when we started picking venues, I said, you know what, hey, let's go back to San Diego. I mean, what's there not to like about San Diego? It's great
sunny weather.
Yeah. Come on, it's beautiful here, home of the Pacific Fleet, right? Yeah. So why not?
Now you talk about Gilbert being the best lightweight in the world.
Yeah.
This is coming just after Dana White said that Frankie Edgar is the #2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Do you think Gilbert's on top of Frankie?
Of course. I think, you know, Gilbert's got his hands full on this fight. So I don't, you know, that's with Jorge Masvidal. And people talk about, you know, him fighting Frankie, but at some point I think that fight will happen. And, you know, I think Gilbert will you know, do what he has to do. But I think Gilbert's the greatest fighter in the lightweight division right now.
Do you think Gilbert beats Frankie in a lightweight fight?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about Cris Cyborg. She hasn't fought for a really long time. I know a lot of MMA fans, especially fans of women's MMA, have been wanting her to come back. Talk about the process of getting her to come back to Strikeforce, getting her back in the cage. Tell me what was that like?
Well, you know what? Believe me, I personally always knew she was going to have a deal with us because she's the greatest female fighter in the world. You know that, we know that, everybody knows that. But, you know, there comes a point where the fighter and the promoter have to have an agreement, and her contract was running out or expired, and we had to get more fights, and it was just the natural process of negotiation, and it just took a long time, and so it just kept going and going. But in the back of my mind, I knew we'd be here at some point, you know, having this conversation.
What made you so confident that you'd get her back in the cage?
Because we are the league that provides a platform for the best female fighters in the world. And she is the best female fighter in the world. And this is what she does every day. She loves it. You know? So to me, I knew that it was just a matter of time.
What do you think about her comments about pro wrestling and that being a realistic possibility?
I mean, to me, it's, you know, I think personally it'd be something fun to watch. You know? Have her pro wrestle, I don't know. Maybe she could pro wrestle Nick Diaz or somebody. That would be fun, wouldn't it? But in seriousness, you know what? You know, she's going to be a fighter. We have a new contract with her. She's going to be fighting, and then you know, that's something she could do later on in her career.
KJ Noons, obviously, he hasn't had the best success of late. 2 straight losses. How much do you think that weighs on him going into it?
Well, one thing I must say about him is KJ said it best up on the stage. He said, yeah, I mean, I fought the best fighters in the world, right? When you fight the top guys, he fought Nick Diaz. I mean, he fought great fighters. So there's no shame in losing. And to me, your stock, you lose to Nick Diaz, your stock doesn't go down, right? And that fight was very close. I'm not sure if you remember, but that fight was very close. And that fight was what? Only about 10 months ago or 11 months ago. So it wasn't that long ago. And these guys can switch it up, and just like Jorge Masvidal, you know, he had lost a couple fights, and then he went on a 2-fight win streak, and that's how he got the shot with Gilbert. So, you know, you can turn around a fighter's career very, you know, within a year, and be right back where you need to be.
So do you think he's destined to go on another streak, become maybe a top 5 lightweight?
I think he can. And let's face it. I mean, I think KJ tried to box his last couple fights too much, and not do complete MMA. So I think that that's what he's gotten out of it. And I know he'll make those adjustments because he's a warrior at heart. He's a fighter at heart. And when have you ever seen KJ Noons in a boring fight? Ever. And I'm a fan of his, so to me that goes a long way because he puts on great fights for the promoter and the fans.
Let's switch gears a little bit here. I asked you during the press conference about Gina Carano.
Okay.
Obviously, she was the face of women's MMA for a few years. until Cyborg came in and won that fight. And I asked you about why the negotiation just didn't go through. I wasn't really clear on why it didn't happen. Yeah.
No, it's she has a contract with Strikeforce to fight under our banner on Showtime. So it's not a matter of a contract issue. Really, the issue right now is, with the doctor releasing her to spar and train. But I think that there has to be a next step, and I think that really we're waiting to hear from them. There's negotiations back and forth. So it's not financial negotiations. It's trying to get her cleared to be.
So is she still not cleared to spar and train at all?
No, she is. But cleared to fight is a bit of a different story. So that's what we're waiting on.
So you're waiting to get an okay that, yeah, you can step back in the cage and fight on a card.
That's right.
I gotta ask the obvious question: with all the coverage of Strikeforce and it being bought by Zuffa and the potential end of the company, does that weigh down on you at all, or is that something you just put in the back of your mind? Or
you know what? I tell you, Zuffa is committed to continuing Strikeforce, and really, it's in Showtime's hands. There's dialogue and negotiations going back and forth right now, and I'm hopeful that Strikeforce will be renewed, and we'll put out some great fights for many years.
Ken Hirschman,
yes,
it was reported that he stepped down and he's headed to HBO Sports. Do you think that will weigh in on the decision for Strikeforce to continue with Showtime?
I had a conversation with Showtime this morning about that when I heard about Ken's move, and you know what? To me, I'm thankful to Ken for putting MMA on Showtime and putting MMA on CBS, because he was really the catalyst to make a lot of that happen, right? So I'm thankful for that. But you know what? To me, it's back to business as usual with Showtime, because there's a lot of other people there that we dealt with that love MMA. I know we've been a great ratings deliverer for them, and the negotiations are continuing. And so to me, it doesn't skip a beat; it continues. They like mixed martial arts, and we'd like to continue.
So there's communication still about carrying on with Strikeforce.
Absolutely.
How about past contracts? Have there been any talks about that? About keeping it around on Showtime, please?
Well, that's the dialogue that's going on. Here's the further. Yeah. So it's hopefully we'll have an answer soon, and Strikeforce will continue. But I'm hopeful, because I know that both sides would like it to happen.
Scott Coker, thanks for talking with MMAWeekly.com.
Appreciate it.